So the 95th Academy Awards were on Sunday night. I made a reaction video that dropped on YouTube just a few hours later. Now I wanted to kind of break the ceremony down into 10 favorite moments. These are the moments I'm going to take with me. Here are my 10 favorite moments from the 95th Academy Awards. Number 10, Jimmy Kimmel's shout out to James Hong. I thought Hong's speech at the SAG Awards when the whole cast won Best Ensemble at the very end of the show was amazing. I thought that was the greatest speech of that whole show. It was really incredible. I was so happy that they gave him that platform to come up and talk and almost kind of like do stand-up for a couple minutes. Like, it was really great. And I was wondering, like, would he get a moment to shine at the Oscars? He wasn't nominated for Best Supporting Actor, so I was like, maybe they just don't mention him. I was so happy that Kimmel gave Hong that moment. It wasn't very long, but it shined a light on a really great character actor who has been around for decades and decades. For anyone who didn't watch the SAG Awards, like, they got to see Hong in that moment at the Oscars, and I thought that was very well deserved. I really loved that part. Number 9 is my favorite comedy bit from Kimmel's monologue. I mean, some of the jokes landed better than others. I did like the Encino Man joke about Pauly Shore. That was kind of funny. And then it's weird to think like, oh, so both Kwan and Fraser won Oscars. So I wonder if Pauly Shore caught the show. Like, I wonder what his thoughts are about this year's Oscars. He'd be like, wow, Encino Man represents in the year 2023. I was really happy with how Kimmel addressed the Will Smith slap. I was like, this could be really cringy. This might be too much. But it was like tongue-in-cheek, the humor was there, and I really liked his whole idea of having like the task force of the people who will bring the person down who tries to inflict violence by showing us like Michelle Yeoh, who did like a really cool like martial arts pose. I loved that. By showing Steven Spielberg and Guillermo del Toro, and I just thought that bit was very funny, and it didn't overstay its welcome. And it was just a nice way to acknowledge the slap from last year, but also not too cringy. I thought that worked really well. That was a really great moment from the very beginning of the show. Number 8 was John Travolta choking up as he introduced the In Memoriam segment. That was a very, very human moment. Obviously, John Travolta has had a lot of loss in his life through family, and then in his career, we had in the In Memoriam Olivia Newton-John and Kirstie Alley. So that was obviously a very emotional moment for him, and him choking up got to me. Like, I was crying. Like, I've always been a big fan of John Travolta going back to the 90s. I kind of grew up with him in so many movies. And to see him kind of break down like that, I thought was very moving and very real. Number 7 was Sarah Polley winning her first Oscar. She won Best Adapted Screenplay for Women Talking. I was feeling like All Quiet on the Western Front was going to take that. After All Quiet won production design and original score, I was like, uh-oh, like this movie's got some heat behind it. I think All Quiet's going to win Adapted Screenplay. I was kind of going back and forth in my prediction video. I was like, if there's enough support for All Quiet, it could take Adapted Screenplay. Also because it won in that category at BAFTA. But I just felt like Women Talking was the more obvious choice there. And Sarah Polley had the previous Oscar nomination for Away From Her. So that just felt right to me. And I've always really admired Sarah Polley. I think she's a really talented filmmaker. She's a great actress. And I just really wanted this for her. I wanted Women Talking to go home with an Oscar. And I thought her speech was great. I loved Rooney Mara, like, refusing to stand up after Sarah Polley asked, like, the cast and crew if they were in the room to get up on their feet. And there was a shot of Rooney Mara. Like, she's like, no. Like, I think was it to Claire Foy or Jessie Buckley? Rooney Mara was like, I'm not getting up. I thought that was cute. And I just was really happy to see Sarah Polley win an Oscar. She's very, very talented, has made some great films. And this was her moment. It felt right. So that was really great. 2, number 6 was the speeches by the Daniels, both in original screenplay and in director. They were kind of rambling, but very funny, very inspirational. I think they're both so incredibly talented, and you could feel like how humble they were by this, like by all of the attention that this movie's gotten over the last year, all the awards it's won up until now, and them winning original screenplay and director. You could tell they were just kind of in shock and just like, wow, this is happening. And they just told some really great stories. I loved the shout outs, and they took their time on the stage. Especially Daniel Kwan had some excellent things to say. I love the bit where Shiner talked of his childhood, playing dress up. That was a great moment. I was so happy when that got a huge round of applause. And I just was really taken with all of their speeches this award season, and especially what they had to say in their wins at the Oscars for original screenplay and director. They were fantastic. Number 5 is the Jamie Lee Curtis speech. Now, as I talked about in my previous reaction video from a few hours ago, that was the one major win of the night I didn't think was necessarily deserving. As much as I love Jamie Lee Curtis, she's one of my all-time favorites, I didn't think that performance was deserving of an Academy Award win. Like a nomination, fine, but I was like, okay, we're gonna award that performance over Carrie Condon, over Stephanie Hsu, who was in the same film and I thought gave a better performance. So I guess I'll just kind of wrestle with that win for a while, but I love Curtis and I loved her speech. My number 5 favorite moment of the night was what she said at the end about her mom and dad. I thought that was so moving. It brought me to tears because I love the careers of Tony Curtis, of Janet Leigh. Psycho is one of my favorite films. Some Like It Hot is one of my favorite films. And I just think it's really cool that Tony Curtis was nominated for an Oscar, didn't win. Janet Leigh was nominated for an Oscar for Psycho, didn't win. And then more than 60 years later, their daughter, Jamie Lee Curtis, now in her mid-60s, gets her first Oscar nomination like they did, and then she wins. And that final thing she said about her parents and kind of looking up at the ceiling and said, you both were nominated and I was nominated and I just won, as she was trying to hold back the tears. That was just a really special moment that I will never forget. That was my favorite part of her speech and one of the best parts of the night, easily. Number 4 was the Naatu Naatu dance number. That was fantastic. That was one of the best dance numbers I've seen at the Oscars in years. I was so just gleefully happy that whole number, and to see them get a standing ovation was fantastic. There was so much love in the room for RRR. I wonder if that movie had gotten into more categories, like more technical categories, if it could have won a few more. Like if that film had been submitted for international feature film, like maybe it could have given All Quiet on the Western Front some competition. I mean, there was just a lot of love for that movie over the last few months. And then when it came to the Oscars, it really was just that one category. But we did get to acknowledge that film in that category with that dance number, and then with their win for Best Original Song. I really loved the dance number for Naatu Naatu. Number 3 was the win and speech for Brendan Fraser. I have loved Brendan Fraser since the 90s. I really did kind of grow up with him in the movies. I remember renting School Ties and Encino Man when I was very young. And then, of course, George of the Jungle and The Mummy and Bedazzled, movies I went to see with my friends when I was like in middle school and high school. I just always really loved the work of Brendan Fraser, and to see him come back with this really strong performance, dramatic performance in The Whale, and just hit it out of the park. Think what you want of that movie. I think the Fraser performance is really terrific, and I just felt all throughout the season like Fraser could take this. I know Austin Butler had a very good chance. I think they were very close. I just felt like Fraser was the right winner there. When he won at SAG, I could feel the momentum shifting and like, okay, I think Fraser could take this. But The Whale not being in Best Picture and Elvis being in Best Picture and that BAFTA win for Butler, I thought, I felt kind of crazy predicting Brendan Fraser to win Best Actor in that prediction video I did a week ago. I was like, man, I might fall flat on my face with this one because I know a lot of people were predicting Austin Butler, but I was just overcome with emotion. I was so happy to see Fraser win an Academy Award. How cool is that? And I thought he gave another great speech. I'm so happy for the return of Brendan Fraser. I can't wait to see what happens to him next. Number 2 for me was the win and speech for Ke Huy Quan. Obviously, that's the one acting category that didn't really have any suspense. That would have been the shocker of the night if Quan had not won. So it's not like it was a surprise or anything, but it was still a very well-deserved win. What a narrative Quan had this season. What a great performance he gives in Everything Everywhere All at Once. And really, this is my number 2 because once again, he gave a killer speech. He gave the best speeches of the award season. Some years when there's an actor who's winning every award at Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, at SAG, at Oscars, you get kind of bored. They say the same things. You're like, okay, get on with it. That was never the case with Quan. He always had a different speech at every show that kind of highlighted different things, and he was always very emotional, real, authentic. You could tell how appreciative he was of all of this attention, all of these trophies, and he gave one more terrific speech at the Oscars that choked me up immediately. I don't think he ever gave a speech this award season that didn't make me cry a little. Like he has this ability to bring the tears out because it's just so authentic. You know that's not a performance. Like he's not just making that up. He really feels what he's saying in those speeches, and I thought he gave just one of the great speeches of the night. A fantastic win, a fantastic actor. I love his performance in that movie. I'm so happy that Ke Huy Quan has an Academy Award. And my number 1 favorite moment of the 95th Academy Awards is... Okay, there might not be much suspense with this one. Of course, it was the history-making Best Actress win for Michelle Yeoh. I was so happy, relieved, thrilled when they called her name because I do think, up until even the last minute, that Cate Blanchett had a very good chance of winning that. I thought, Tar is going home empty-handed if Cate Blanchett doesn't win this, and Everything Everywhere All at Once is winning a lot of things. It won supporting actor and supporting actress, so even in those last few minutes, I wasn't super confident. I was like, they might say Cate Blanchett, and I would have been okay with that. Obviously, Tar is my favorite film of last year, and Blanchett gave an amazing performance, so it would have been a terrific win. A great third win for Blanchett. But I just felt like this was Michelle Yeoh's moment. I've been so annoying on Twitter the last few weeks, like just sharing every day reasons why Yeoh should win, all of these things. It was just a really surreal moment. I had just spent so many weeks like thinking about the Best Actress race, talking about Michelle Yeoh in my elusive Oscar video on Twitter just for so long, and then it was like it all came down to that moment. Like as they were opening the envelope, I was like, okay, this is it, here we go. Yeah, I might have jumped up and screamed when they announced her name. And I mean, just how cool was it for Halle Berry, the first woman of color to win Best Actress, to give the trophy to Michelle Yeoh, the second woman of color to win Best Actress in 95 years. That was a special moment. That was extraordinary. I loved Michelle Yeoh's speech. I mean, she could have just like broken down crying up there. She stayed very composed, and I was just really impressed with everything she had to say. I love what she said about her mom. I found that very moving. It was an emotional moment. Her speech was great, and history was made. The first Asian woman to win Best Actress in 95 years, and so well deserved. She is incredible in Everything Everywhere All at Once. So my favorite moment of the 95th Academy Awards was the Best Actress win for Michelle Yeoh. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And I wanted to let you know we're just days away from the launch of the Brian Rowe Video Patreon page. On Sunday, March 19th, the Patreon is going live with an exclusive Patreon-only video about the career of Heath Ledger and his Oscar win for The Dark Knight. And I'm also going to have my Patreon subscribers vote for who gets to be the subject of my next elusive Oscar video. So that's coming up this Sunday. Thank you for all your support. It's been a great award season. I've had a total blast. We're not going to talk about the next Oscars for a while. I'm going to go back to some retrospective videos. I'm going to do a couple more early days of Oscar videos. I'm going to look at the Best Actor and Best Actress races of 2009. Lots more Meryl Streep content coming your way. And eventually, finally, a video about my all-time favorite, Sandra Bullock, going up against Meryl Streep for Best Actress in 2010. Lots of really fun content heading your way, both on YouTube and on the Patreon page for Brian Rowe Video. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.